One of the neatest stories I've ever had happen to me is I was preaching in Sweden. I was 20 years of age. And the night I was preaching at Stanley Schoberg's church in Stockholm, Sweden, there was a lady that was up in a balcony. And when she was up in the balcony, she was watching me preach with all this energy. And she says, God, I wish you could send someone like that to Krister. I wish you could send someone like that to my son-in-law, Krister, because that Tim Storey guy, he could really get a hold of Krister. True story. One of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. Well, this lady said that. A week later, I was in a little village called Alfta, Sweden. And I was taking a nap. At that time, I had a bigger afro. How many remember the days of Soul Train, the hippest trip in America with Don Cornelius? And I had a Don Cornelius afro. And I was taking a nap, watch. And my afro was all closed here and big here. And those that have had fros know that I needed to rake it out. But what had happened is that I felt the Lord speaking to me. Watch how powerful this is. And I felt the Lord say to me, get up, get on a bicycle and ride. Get up, get on a bicycle and ride. And at that time, I was still trying to learn, is that God's voice, is that my voice, or is that the devil? So I thought, it must be the devil because I'm sleeping on my fro. But I'm about to be part of somebody's comeback. So I get up and I say to these people that have this house, these Swedish people who hardly speak English, I said, do you have a bicycle? And the lady says, oh, we have a very little bicycle, very little bicycle. It's a very small boy's bicycle. And I felt the Lord say, get on the bike. So I said, I'll ride this. She said, no, you cannot ride. I said, yes, I will. So I walked across the living room with the bicycle. Listen, this is powerful. Get on the bicycle, and I'm riding like this. My knees are hitting the handlebars. My fro is like this. Come on, flat and big. Don't know where I'm headed, but God does, because it's a setup. I'm telling you right now, people are set up to help you in March, April, May, June, July. Someone is about to get a breakthrough. Somebody clap like you just heard it. It's a setup. Come on, it's a setup. Today is a setup. You're going to get help today. It's a setup in the spirit world. You've been set up. So I'm riding, I don't know where to go. I see these Swedish people and I says, is there a lake nearby? And they says, yes, for there is a lake, and you go 2 blocks and you turn right, and for there is a lake. So there I go with my afro like that. Well, it's about to change now, boy. It's on. I pull into this lake and you hear these rocks. I remember they have these rocks, and there's this guy with this long hair, and he had these 2 feather earrings. He's a rock and roll Swedish guy. And he goes like this. He goes, hey, you. And it echoes, are you from America, America, America? I said, yes. He says, come here. Okay. With my afro like that. Well, this guy's life is about to change forever. Listen. I come up, and the first thing he says to me, he goes like this. He moves his neck like this. He goes, hey, man. I go, hey. He goes, are you into rock and roll? And the first thing I thought was, God, you woke me up. Come on, somebody. Wouldn't even let me rake out my afro to talk to the guy with feather earrings to hear, are you into rock and roll? I said, yeah, whatever. He said, I am, man. I'm into the Rolling Stone. I said, Stones. There's an S at the end. He said, yeah, Rolling Stone. So he says, what are you doing in this dead village, man? This place is dead. I said, well, I'm actually a preacher, and I came here to rest. And he says, oh, you're a preacher? I said, yes. He says, I'm a backslider. I said, no, you're a backslider. So he starts telling me his story, Krister. He said, I used to be a Pentecostal, and I got on drugs. And he says, and I am in rebellion, and I am married to a pastor's daughter. And I don't serve God anymore. And the power of God hit right there. Krister started weeping. The power of God hit him. He gives his life back to the Lord. Watch this. Krister says, you've got to go with me to the house. I have to go talk to my mother-in-law. She'll never believe it. You're going to put the story together in a minute. So he says, you ride and I'll run. And so he's running, and I'm like this, like Pee Wee Herman. The sanctified Pee Wee Herman. So we get to the house. Out of all the miracles I've seen, 55 countries, seen people come out of wheelchairs, blind eyes open for real, deaf ears open for real. This is one of my favorite stories. Because it shows you how God just works stuff out. He flings the door open, and while he does it, there's a Swedish lady, and she's screaming, "Tim Storey! Tim Storey!" This time I'm a 20-year-old preacher. I'm not well known in Sweden. She says, "Tim Storey!" And so he starts screaming, and she's crying, and he's crying, and the wife is crying, everybody's crying. That was the lady who was up in the church a week earlier. And it said, "God, can you somehow, if you could get that Tim Storey to somehow talk to Krister." God took me from Stockholm, Sweden, 9 hours to a little village, took me out of a nap, didn't let me rake out my afro. Come on, somebody. Got to the person, because while he was feeling the sting of his setback, God was already preparing his comeback. Somebody give the Lord a clap and a shout.